Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today for the Morning 4-3-2-1. Appreciate so much you giving us a few minutes of your time. This morning, we're going to be looking at Mark chapter 14. Sean's going to read for us. Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, so we're looking at Mark 14, starting in verse 43. We're just going through verse 52 today. Mark 14, 43 through 52. This is what it says. Immediately while he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, came up accompanied by a crowd with swords and clubs, who were from the chief priests and the scribes and the elders. Now he who was betraying him had given them a signal, saying, "Whomever I kiss, he is the one. Seize him and lead him away under guard." After coming, Judas immediately went to him and saying, "Rabbi," and kissed him. They laid hands on him and seized him. But one of those who stood by drew his sword and struck the slave of the high priest and cut off his ear. And Jesus said to them, "Have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me as you would against a robber? Every day I was with you in the temple teaching, and you did not seize me. But this has taken place to fulfill the scriptures." And they all left him and fled. A young man was following him, wearing nothing but a linen sheet over his naked body, and they seized him. But he pulled free the linen sheet and escaped naked. All right, Mark?
The thing I'd like to point out, Sean, is that the devil has always been active in trying to bring down the Lord and the Lord's people. And historically, one of the greatest allies he's had are the Lord's people and the followers of Jesus Christ. And that's what we have right here. In the story, we find Judas, a disciple of Jesus who had followed Jesus for years, is the one who turns on Christ, kisses Christ, calls him teacher. I think there's a sobering lesson for us to think about there. Are we the ones that the devil is using sometimes to betray Christ? Are we betraying Christ in our actions? Are we betraying Christ in our words? Are we betraying Christ in our attitudes? Are we associating with people who are ungodly people and hurting the cause of Christ? Are we kissing Jesus Christ in going to worship services and worshiping him and praying to him and singing to him and all the things, while at the same time associating with people who are the enemies of Christ in a way that we encourage them? Are we calling Jesus Christ our teacher and our rabbi and kissing him while we act in ways that are inappropriate? That's a hard question for us to think about. It's real easy for us to go to worship services and think that we're following Christ, but the telltale sign is what we're doing every day in our life and who we're associating with, and whether we are walking with him in a way that lifts him up and glorifies him or brings him down. I need to be thinking about my actions, my attitudes, my words. I need to be thinking about how I act toward other people, how I act towards people of different races. I need to think about what I post on social media, whether I am really with him through thick and thin or whether I'm betraying him in my actions. Those are tough things to think about, but I think we need to from this text.
Yeah, amen. Appreciate that. David?
Well, I want to look at the beginning in verse 48. Verse 48, Jesus had asked a question, and the question surrounds the fact how they came out to arrest Jesus. It seems out of all proportion for who he was. They came out like he was a hardened criminal, dangerous, and they came out with swords and clubs. And we may offer all kinds of plausible explanations why they came out in force to arrest Jesus. But I want us to just notice in verse 49, he said, "This has taken place to fulfill the scriptures." I think sometimes we read the events of the last week and we think about all of these different forces that were acting together to arrest Jesus, and we fail to see God in the picture. God did not relinquish his sovereignty. He still was in control, and these things were happening according to his purpose. And I say all that to say we need to remember that. Things around us seem to spiral out of control. Things happen. But never forget that God has his place. He still rules upon his throne. Jesus has all authority now on heaven and earth. And we need to remember that and take comfort in that.
Yeah, amen. All right, well, thank you all for joining us this morning. Join us tomorrow if you are able as we finish out this chapter. Thanks again, and God bless.